And we're back with another episode of Let's Play Shining Force. I'm your host, the RPG guy. Let's get moving. This game is not going to beat itself, as we are on the road again. So, there's two different passages through this. So we leveled everyone to 5, pretty much. I think one person might be 6 or so, but pretty much we got everybody to level 5 or in that vicinity. Mostly leveling off of everything except the final enemy. As a heads up, there's two strategies to this battle. So even if you're lower level than, let's say, 5, I find the best route, the easiest route, is to head southeast versus going northeast. Primarily because it's harder for the Rune Knights to surround you. Going north, if my memory serves me right, because the Knights' movement is really good and the open area allows them to have pretty much go wherever they want, it's a little harder to control the flow of enemies. And then especially because you're going to get attacked by the bats too. So you got to deal with the Knights and the bats at the same time. However, going the southern route actually allows the bats to get over to our vicinity before we even really start dealing with the dwarves, the dark dwarves, which again, they weren't a threat when we showed up at about level 3 anyway. So I still don't visually see them as a threat now, other than to the more, except for the squishier characters. The bats are still a threat because they have the ability to sleep characters. The Rune Knights can hit pretty hard, hence why getting tag teamed by the Knights and the bats is not recommended. Whereas if we were to get attacked by both the bats and the dwarves, it's much more easy to manage that. And the dwarves won't actually attack you until you cross the bridge on the far right, which you'll see that May is standing on. They won't even come that much further south. Where the bats, you'll notice the Knights are changing their trajectory, or they're where they're going. And you'll notice as we come over this way that the dwarves will start moving down now that Ken has crossed the bridge. So you can structure your battle technique a little better this way. And you'll notice, because we're powering our way just to the right side of the map, we can focus on the dwarves right away. If you're a little slower getting over here, the bats will involve themselves. And they will go after your slower characters. You're going to notice he's going to make the full distance going south. Which means they'll pretty much attack from behind the group of characters that we have. It's not a problem, though. It's not even a perceivable problem. It's just something you got to deal with. And since the bats aren't really that threatening, I don't ultimately worry about it. Nor should you. We are slowly but surely making our way south. And we don't get much XP for killing the dwarves at level 5, so there's not much point to putting that much effort. You see 14 XP. It would take... So let's just say it was 15. Just killing 4 dwarves would be 60 XP, so not worth it. So, yeah. So there's no point in even getting Max involved because we don't want him taking damage unnecessarily. I just want him away from the bats. Just screw those bats. We've gotten Crystal level 5, and I should show you what she's able to do now that she's there. I think Heal 2's gone out. No, not to Gong though. Heal 2 to... Yeah, she's gotten Heal level 2. Her attack is now 12 versus... Low's 13, defense is 7, her defense is 7, so... Not as big of an improvement as you would openly think, but we're getting there. As the bats are pretty much just attacking anybody they can get their hands on. And Ken falls asleep. Great. through that dwarf. And Tau hits level 6. Which is not a surprise. Any XP we can get, we're gonna take. Oh no! They're sleeping, my party. But no, we don't care who gets XP at this point. Again, they're all level 5, so you know, what are you gonna do? We just want to get through the fight. Again, like I said, the XP we get from the enemies is losing its momentum as far as what we get. I think the Rune Knights give a little bit more than the dwarves. The bats give a little bit more than the dwarves, and then the archers, I think, are still gonna give close to max XP. I think they give like 35. Which, again, once you get lower than 30, an enemy class may not be worth it. So that's kind of the incentive to move on. Because you're just not going to level up very quickly from the various enemy types. You know, because I hate the bats. Let's try to kill the bats here. Hey, there you bad bastard! There, Gort's asleep. Hopefully, I think Gong takes hits a little better. Yeah, he takes hits from the Dark Dwarves better. Not necessarily the bats, but nobody really takes damage from the bats well. It's not that they don't take damage, they just get freaking knocked to sleep. Constantly making my life miserable. At least it'll be dead. Especially characters after, yeah, 13 XP for the bats. Hence why there's no point, like I said, there's no point in grinding beyond level 5. Arguably, you could, I think they still gave moderate XP at level 4, so. The dwarves, I think, were the ones that are already giving less by that juncture. I'm gonna burn through all my offensive magic just trying to hit single bats. Alright, let's see. Bats gotta die. Nice. Fucking sweet. Turned myself up a little bit. Next here. Maybe try to get that bat to move away from the dwarves so other characters have a crack at him. Strangely enough, the bat moved away. One space. Luke's asleep. Let you get the kill gone. Gone, 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 gone. 22 for him. Yeah, it's weird how that plays out like that. One character got like 15 or 17. He got 22. Okay, Ken's awake. Gort's awake. Lo's gonna murder this dark dwarf, hopefully. Yeah. Lo gets to level 6. My whole thing is if he attacks one of the healers, that's fine because that'll give something for one of the other healers to heal. Bring on that pain train. May as well. Gord will have a chance of picking the enemy off. Because, yeah, at this point, it's one of those things where it's like, if Gord has the means to kill it, we should let him kill it. it is. Kill that motherfucker. I'm on fire. Get Max up here. This should lure the knights down, the rune knights, now that we've crossed the bridge. Here they come. Strangely enough, if you go back over the bridge, they retreat, so, Luke will probably, knowing Luke, he'll be out the rest of this battle. So every turn we get, our healers need to heal, even if there's only 1 HP to heal. That way they get the XP for healing. This way we don't care who they heal specifically, as long as they have HP worth healing. If Low burns through all of his MP, that's 70 XP outright. When you think about it, the only person we might not, well, yeah, we'll have Gong heal himself, but that's 40 XP minimum that he would get for doing it. And look at that, Gong levels with a better attack bonus, which is great. Leave Max there. We'll just kind of let the enemy come to us. Because that's one of my biggest tactics, is to let the enemy come as close as they can to us. In other Shining games, this works as well, but you have to manage it a little differently. But for the most part, it's a pretty sound strategy, because when the enemies have to come to you, they put themselves in a situation where they can't manipulate the battlefield as well. When you try to bum rush them, chances are the AI will be set up in a way where you can't really reach. And since you can't really reach, you're always going to come up short, which allows the enemy to kind of go after whoever they want if your characters are in a group, or if you send your fastest characters up the furthest. Sending them up the furthest without any kind of aid is not good, because they'll get swarmed, right? In many cases. So some people's playthroughs end up being this thing where they have like a couple of really good uber characters, like uber powerful characters, and then everybody else is kind of falling behind. And if one of those heavy hitters, gets beaten down by a boss, it makes it harder to win the battles. Whereas if you level characters rather evenly, it tends to be a better overall experience, because your character's survivability universally is better, and it gives you more, how to describe it? It gives you more variety in what you can do. So it's one of those arguments of, you either put all your experience on like 5 characters, or you put the majority of that XP on 5 characters, and then they're like 5 levels above everyone else, or 6 levels above everyone else throughout the entirety of your game. Which is a strategy I used when I played this game as a kid, was something I kind of did. I take like my strongest frontline fighters and just make sure they got most of the XP, if not almost all of it. And I realized that wasn't the best strategy, because your healers would run out of MP. I didn't use Max a lot the first time I played this back in the early 90s. So not using Max a lot allowed for Max to become the most vulnerable melee fighter in the party. And because you have to use him. And here's the thing about every Shining game. I can't vouch for all the Fire Emblem games because my experiences with those games, though I have played them, I have not played them a lot. So I'm not as familiar with all the Fire Emblem games. But usually the main character in Shining games, your primary character, is one of the stronger characters outright. And arguably, I would say the weakest incarnation of the main character is Shining Force 1. And it's mainly because he gets no offensive spells. Whereas in other Shining games, he ends up getting like Bolt or something Bolt-like along those lines. We're gonna let Chris get that kill, if possible. As long as she doesn't die from this attack. We'll have Gong heal it. So you'll notice the enemies aren't coming towards us, and they won't. These particular enemies won't. So some enemies will approach you and some won't. And it's based on a very specific set of factors. And you just have to account for those factors. Not a big deal at the end of the day, it's just something you have to consider. We'll have Chris heal herself next round as well. Or we make sure she kills one of the archers, which, where's she at? At 52. She might level from it. If she gets max XP, so we'll heal her with Gong instead. Against my better judgment. We'll get her into position. Again, you'll notice I'm putting a lot of effort getting the levels of our healers up, and whenever the opportunity to level a healer presents itself, and they're at the lowest average level of your party, you want to make sure you give them that opportunity, in my opinion. Because that, and same with Hans for that matter, your ranged characters. Characters who are just not as strong for X reason, like they don't get a good weapon, or it's the main character, like Max or something. Any chance you get where you can give him a little extra XP bonus, you'll want to take it. So you'll notice how I'm moving characters into position. I'm being very selective with where I move them and put them. I should have had Chris heal. And yeah, alas, I did not. So, theoretically, unless Hans crits, he won't get a kill. So we'll see what happens. I think anybody else attacking will get a kill, so... Unless it's like low, but there's only one place to put a character, so if we move Chris into position, nobody, or any other character into the front line, nobody can get up there. So we're hoping Hans doesn't kill the sniper. Good. Good. He didn't double attack. I was like, good, he didn't kill it, and then I'm like, oh god, he could do a second attack. He did not. Now at this point I don't care if Hans dies to a degree. $25 XP. If she kills the other archer, that would be another 25 XP. So let's weaken that archer, maybe pull the attention away from Chris. Or we give it to Max. Well, Max could kill the mage as well, so let's pull him back. So I'm very meticulous with how I do things. And this is the reason why it saves me grinding later. And because we're doing a more casual playthrough, I'm going to start focusing my attention on characters that we are going to keep in the party versus characters we take out, because in this game we're going to have more characters than we know what to do with, and that's not a joke. It's pretty accurate interpretation of what's going to come up. So the thing is, because we're going to have so many characters, we have to start picking which characters we want to use. And for the sake of this playthrough, I'm going to pick what I would consider most people would pick. If you've never played this game, you might pick different characters. But if you have played this game, I'm going to pick the characters who are probably the easiest to use in a casual playthrough. As long as you're willing to invest time into those characters. That's the other aspect. So Chris levels. Now we'll just kill the dark mage here. Gong can weaken, and then we can hopefully get Max to pick him off. That'd be nice. Actually, you know what? Let's use Hans. Max, there's no time to lose. King must be found and stopped at all costs. Find out all you can and be sure to talk to the king of Alteron. Alright, so we're back in control. Nobody died, so we don't need to deal with that, but we are carrying a lot of weapons that we don't need. So we don't need the wooden staff. It's mine, all mine. We don't need the hand axe because the middle swords, or the free middle swords we found, are better. The short sword is good to sell. We'll sell the wooden arrow. You know what? We'll sell the antidote for now. Hans is good. Okay, everybody's pretty much sorted out. Yeah, that wooden arrow is worth a lot of money. Strangely enough. Alright, let's go talk to His Majesty. And before we do talk to His Majesty, there is a commonly missed set of chests. It's actually over here where we saw those troops earlier. And there's 3 chests over here, but don't feel bad. My memory serves me right. There's nothing that amazing or mind-blowing over here. 50 coins, an empty chest, and what was this one? Nothing. So it's 50 bucks. And that's the only chest that was blocked from earlier. So the game doesn't hyper punish you for not remembering to go get those. Max, that wasn't myself. Kane had some power over me. Can you forgive me? Thank you. I want to help you. Search the dragon head and reveal a secret passage. So if we come this way, pull the lever. And we've pulled the lever. The legacy of the ancients, the door, the key. What can it all mean? No matter what the cost, the mystery must be solved, and Runeforth's plans foiled. Like I said, I'm not doing voices in this one because there's so many characters. My throat's also been bugging me the last month or so, so I'm trying to avoid it. Yes, we'll record. Chapter 2, Spirit of the Holy Spring. Max and the Shining Force follow Kane's trail to the town of Rindo. So we can't actually walk past those walls. You know, games like No. The name's Boken. I'm going crazy in this dull place. Does anything ever happen? Well, you make it sound like you want something bad to happen, bro. What's in here? Plays by the beginning. It's Runeforth riding Guardiana. Want to see it? Sure. Go sit down. It's starting. Thank you for waiting. The show will now begin. Take that, you Guardiana wimp, and that. Please don't kill me, mighty Runeforth knight. Please. You're too weak to live, you lowly worm. Take that. Aye, you've killed me. Play. So shall Runeforth's foes always fall. Pow, bang, smash. Cheer. No. Boo! Boo! Your fucking thing sucks! Your play blows! Boo! I demand a refund, sir. The show is free. But I'm not free. My time isn't free. Pay up, motherfucker. Okay. Yeah, I'm a big asshole. So what? Speaking of, why did I not check over here really quick? Okay, so let's take a look at weapons. So we get one of the really good weapons of the game right now, which is the power staff. Which, strangely enough, you'll see what I mean in a moment once we get these equipped on everyone. We get one for free later, so theoretically we could really just buy 2. You know what, we'll buy 2. that way I can show you guys how to maximize your profits. Tao doesn't really need a power staff. Chris, however, does, because Tao's just going to use her magic. So what's the point of the staff, right? 20. Again, did you see that? And I'll show you again as a comparison. Ken is at 19. That. Gord is at 19. Chris just got 20 damage. Low will be somewhere close to that too. 21. Now Tao would be about 16 damage or so. I don't think she ever gets that high from the power staff right away, unless she's higher level. That's what, and she has her magic to constantly fall back on. So I'm not. She's getting it for her is not as relevant, and we technically get a free one later, so there's no reason to buy Tao one unless you've got money to burn. If you're not doing a light grind session, like if you're not doing the lighter grind sessions like I am, it makes sense to give Tao the power staff. But if you're doing a little bit of grinding in every couple of chapters, then it makes more sense. So we get the speed ring, which raises agility pretty good. But you have to ask yourself is who needs it? And we can figure that out in a moment here. The speed ring raises agility. Agility is an X stat that has a couple of functions, but nothing like... It's probably argued to be one of the worst rings in the game. As far as what it can do, what it's used for and what it can do. Woo, this is heavy and hot. Make sure you talk to this guy. Croc the Genius, that's me. Look at my steam suit. Gunts, walk over here. Still doesn't seem right. Silence, just do as I ask. Okay, okay. It stopped. Not again. Oh dear, well, back to the old drawing board. It was heavy and hot. It's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes. So really quick, let's just take a look at some stats here. And it really depends on like who needs that benefit. And that benefit is heavily debatable. But, you know, if we use Max as our centerpiece here of agility, his agility is 8 versus, like, May, which is 9. Our slower characters should be Gort and Luke at 6, yeah. Which is usually who I give the ring to, is one of the two of them. They're pretty slow. I mean, we could check our healers. Like, Chris is 7. Still faster than the others. But you kind of want your healer. Low's at 9, so he's not as near as slow as Chris. So, but usually for me, it's like you want it on. You want your healers to go later in the round because they're not going to need to heal at the beginning of a slurry of turns. They're going to need to heal more or less. I would say that optimizing their healing would be best suited for like at the end of once monsters and most of your characters have gone. So we're going to give this to Luke for now. And then we're going to get this Bread of Life off of Max to put it on Gort. Because chances are, and this is a spoiler alert, Luke's going to be our warrior of choice long term. But again, we make that decision when it comes time to promote characters. It would help if I actually continued the storyline. So let's go up and over. I don't think there's any other chests in town that we need to worry ourselves with. You say the mayor, King of Runefrost bought all our ships and sailed away. So sorry. No ships are left. My ship, you can't have it. Now please leave. What a dick. This is the priest. Our enemies seek to stop you from reaching Henri in Manarina. You must succeed. Alright, so this battle sucks. And if I didn't mention it in the last episode or two, I'm going to mention it again. Outdoor battles suck in this game. And that excludes one, but I don't really consider it an outdoor battle. Or overworld battle. But the desert has movement restrictions on it as well. As does this dense brushed area that looks like tall grass or trees. So really that becomes an issue of you have to navigate across this map with these enemy groups. And even the enemies on you know, with their own movement, move really slowly. Painfully slowly. And they won't actually all come at us at once. So, because this is a thing, it becomes kind of a pain in the butt to get all the characters through this battle. So again, we'll never ever use pretty much outdoor battles or overworld battles to grind levels off of. We don't care who gets the levels, we just want to get through the battle. First and foremost, by far, without exception. No refunds. Alright, so, yeah. Especially because the bats and the dwarves aren't going to give us that much XP at all. We don't get even that much, in all fairness, from the snipers or the dark mages either. At this point. And once we hit 5, that all kind of simmered down to almost nothing. So, our goal ultimately should be to power our way up to the dark mages and zombies, which are at the top. Now, some things to keep in mind. The zombies are probably the nastiest enemies in this. They're one of two really nasty enemies. Undead enemies in general are pretty nasty. They tend to have high defense, they tend to have high offense, and they tend to poison you, specifically the zombies. There's another undead enemy that doesn't poison you on attack, but has really high defense. Undead have they seem to have a slight weakness to fire damage. It's only ever so slight. So don't rely on it too much, because it doesn't seem to be as consistent. But it is there. The other thing to consider too is because they hit really hard and they can cause poison. The zombies, I'm trying to be specific with regards to the zombies. We have to be very careful with how we approach and fight them. They make pretty much mincemeat out of squishier character classes and types. So you don't necessarily want your healers up in the front line fighting them. The best suggestion for dealing with them is really just get your tanky characters up there, and you're pretty much at the mercy of your tanks. Your tanks have to hold off those hits. And your mages will probably be doing a majority of the damage to those enemies. So that is something that you're going to have to micromanage to a degree. Until you get stronger. And again, the zombies are tough, but they're not like brokenly tough. Because the only thing they can do is melee attack. They have no other skill. So the goal is to not spread your damage out over the course of many zombies unless you're using AoE fire, but rather to ensure that you are solving the problem. You want to make sure that you focus usually on one or two at a time. Don't worry about the other healthy ones unless they're going to start going after squishy characters and you want to stop that. That's usually my suggestion, is to just power your way to that point. Oh, thank goodness the bat didn't put him to sleep. Now we got to get him out of there, because we really need Tao to get in there, which would be nice. I should have moved May out of the way too, but oh well. Can't reach, but we're going to use Blaze 2 anyway on this lower one. Yeah, this battle's a little drawn out. I'll max back. Strangely enough, we should put, like... I'm gonna use Gorp, but strangely enough, Chris and Lo are good options for melee combat right now. Because they do the most damage outright. The only problem is they don't take damage very well, so... kind of at the mercy of that. I'm gonna get Hans out of there. Perfect. That'll open a gap. Hopefully we can get characters through at this point. Once a hole's made and not filled with a new enemy, that's usually a good thing. So we're hoping that we get at least one character through. There we go. Have her go after the dwarf. I wasn't kidding. Now that they got those stabs, they're gonna hit things a little bit harder. Get Hans through. Finish that dwarf off. Again, it's a ground enemy, and it's in one of the places where a character could walk. So normally you would want to go after the bats to prevent sleep, but at this point, it's about getting characters across that bridge. Once they're across the bridge, we have a lot less to worry about. As you can see, we don't get a lot of XP for these guys, so there's no point in drawing this particular fight out. That's fine. That's fine. Max. Go after one of these fools. Nice, max levels, which anytime he levels, I'm happy. Can't reach Hans. We're actually going to conserve our MP just because of the zombies. Just to be safe. Better to be safe than murdered! Let's get some range going. Even though it's not very much damage, it might be enough to kill the bat. Nice. This is why you keep spears around. That's why it's worth it. Even though it's a little less damage, could work out in your favor. Let me see that gong, go gong, go gong, gong, gong. Mr. Burns. He tickled our Elmo. Start moving north. The characters who are more able to do a lot more more capable of doing more damage. Like I said, those enemies at the top aren't even going to start moving towards us till we're way closer. Let's kill us that bat. Murder. Wasn't kidding. Those staffs are awesome. Once you get them by this point of the game. And they stay relatively awesome for this chapter, too, by the way. Just to throw that out there, excluding maybe the last battle of this chapter, Lo and Chris, because of the power staff upgrade, tend to actually be decent frontline fighters. Now, you'll notice here, the desert has 0 land effect, but it does affect movement. So, This is something for people to keep in mind. The centaur type characters, because there's 2 classes that are centaur based, and primarily they're knights, and then there's 1 ranged centaur class. They are heavily affected by what's considered difficult terrain. Strangely enough, people have a conflict when it comes to deserts, because you don't get any defense bonuses, but for some reason it's still hard to traverse. It's a freaking desert. You're out in the open, and sand's hard to walk in. Trust me, it is. A lot, especially when you do it for a long period of time. So I get why the terrain's a lot harder to navigate. Why people complained about that, I don't know, but they did. But centaurs, the centaur race in this game, every time you're given awkward terrain or something that's not grass, roads, or bridges, or concrete or stone, whatever. Whenever they are put in that situation, their movement is heavily restricted. And to be fair, because of how heavily restricted it is, the centaur class benefit. Normally, they have really good movement. They have like 7 movement, right? That's about what they normally have, I believe. We're gonna double check right now, actually. Yeah, it's 7 movement, which is the most movement of any class. It's the highest natural movement that classes that have movement can get. So naturally, no class in this game gets more movement than 7, and no class in this game starts with less movement than 4. And right now, I don't think we even have any class. We don't have a class that has 4 right now, so that's not even an issue. But my point is that because movement is so restricted. But here's the other thing, though, is like dwarves are not. They don't get punished. All the other races do not get punished as hard as centaurs do for difficult terrain. Other than flying and floating creatures and characters, all other classes, and if there's one exclusion to this as well, there's a specialty character that walks that's not affected by difficult terrain either. But almost all characters are affected by terrain in some way. However, centaur-based enemies are hindered the most by terrain. So it's just something you need to be weary of. I'll give this away. There's a lot of knights in this in Shining Force 1 compared to even other Shining Force games. For some reason, they were not shy putting in a lot of different knights. By end game, we'll probably only have 1, maybe 2. And some people disagree with the reason which ones I take, and blah 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 blah. I don't care. My whole thing is there's a reason I pick the knights I pick, and the second knight is only if another class just gets really bad stat bonuses or stat gains, which is very unlikely. So there's a good chance we're going to only be restricted to 1 knight. And when we get that knight, I will mention when we have that knight and why he's just what it's all about. Because for a lot of people, especially just people who've casually played this game and never, to be fair, you've never looked at a guide, you've never understood growth patterns that you see between the different characters and classes, which usually you start noticing that pattern about after the 5th time or 4th time you've played the game. If you start trying out other characters and stuff, you start realizing, oh, there's an actual difference between the different characters statistically, and I'm starting to see an average. Not necessarily average, but you start seeing them. Now, again, the more you play after 5 playthroughs, you really start to see it, and then it becomes 100% obvious, probably after you played the game 15 or 20 times, and you retain some kind of understanding of, oh, this character was pretty good. Again, though, it's like I've done a study on leveling, doing 20 levels before promotion and 20 levels after promotion, and I'll tell you the numbers are interesting, but there's a lot of caveats to them. Like, some characters may have statistically outperformed others, but in a casual playthrough, you wouldn't be max leveling like that. So they're not really the best character as far as the best character you should play as. unless you're gonna stat max, or level max, which again is a niche thing. There's no reason to do it. If you're just trying to enjoy the game, you don't need to level that high. You still need a level, you just don't need to level that high. So it's just one of those observational kind of commentaries that you don't need to waste your time leveling like that. Just take your time and do what you need to do. Take your time, level the character. And here's the thing too, is there's an argument that there is such a thing as a bad party. What I think the argument is that if you don't take a good balance of different types of characters, you're in for a bad time. But for the most part, if you just take, one healer minimum, you take, one of each class, even if it's the worst character in that class statistically, you'll be fine. You'll beat this game. You might struggle a bit to kill enemies and stuff like that, but with a little bit of grinding, in certain battles, you could easily build them up. And all the battles I'm going to reference grinding are those battles that if you do them, you will be fine. So this is where Hans starts to fall behind a little bit. As you can see, he does 1 damage to a zombie. Don't worry, that's not going to last long. It's for this battle and another battle. And then by the third battle of this chapter, he starts to catch up a little bit. Don't mind it. We just need to make sure we heal Max. We'll get Hans out of the way. He's kind of useless. Unless he goes after a Dark Mage, which, again, I'm not that eager to make him do. He's already level 6. Let's get other characters up there. Preferably Tao at this point, but I don't know if she's in range. Not that she's level 5. She's level 6 too, but she would at least damage a mob. Like, get her right there, but she's so far away, that's probably not going to happen. Hopefully Luke only takes a couple damage. Ooh, that's bad. We might lose Luke. We might, unless we can get a heal. No, Luke's dead. That's okay. We'll revive him in the next area. But he already levels a 6, so I'm not worried about it. Max needs to get pulled back here. He's very vulnerable. When given the opportunity, go after the Dark Mages, because to be fair, they're the biggest threat over the zombies, in my opinion, because their magic is just the worst. And if you're fighting them, they waste turns doing melee attacks, which I'm also okay with. I'm very okay with them wasting turns like that. Look at May and Ken up there. Nice, May levels to 6. Ah, he's stuck. You know what? Time to live like a rebel. Again, they are our strongest attackers right now. No joke, 32 XP, baby. Yeah. Gong, 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 gong. Gong, you had one fucking job, bro. One fucking job. And you failed. You missed. Ken can actually reach the mage. There we go. At this point, we want to... Gotta keep Luke below alive here. Pull Hans out of the way because he's just in the way. Very, very good. Yes. Waste your turn, Dark Mage. Waste your turn. Do some weakening here. Yeah, you'll notice the knight's not capable of damaging the zombies well either, so... This is what I mean, where it can get a little tricky. Now there should be room for Ken to get in there, but he may not even reach this round, just because his movement is so terrible. But that doesn't matter anymore. Here she comes to save the day. Mighty Tao is on her way. Nice. 48 XP, that's pretty much max XP. Low, heal yourself. For the love of all that is holy, heal yourself. Oh, no! Okay, well, it doesn't matter. As long as he's healing somebody, I don't care. I wish he healed himself, but oh well. I want Chris to get a kill, because like I said earlier, we really want her to level, not Low. Low is probably the worst healer in the game. By far, too, I would argue. There's a good kib. So that's one of the reasons why we really want to make sure that Low doesn't level us. We want to make sure Chris and Gong get more XP than Low. Gong's not one of the best healers either, but he's probably the most casual healer as far as usefulness goes in a casual playthrough. There's another healer in the game, but he comes so late in the game. He's arguably the best healer in the game. Okay, but he comes almost near end game. And he's underleveled and not promoted and so on and so forth. So he almost comes off as completely useless. And that's a fair argument. However, if Gong is not leveling well, he's a decent replacement and he has the means and ability to catch up. And that's the big saving grace of that character. Is the best healer of the game that you get late game has the means to easily catch up to the rest of the party within a few battles. And if you're really struggling that hard for a good healer, you may as well just grind him too. Just grind his levels. Take one battle that's pretty condensed or in a small space and just let him power level. Just power level him. And then he becomes easily the best healer in the game. However, like I said, in a casual playthrough, he's not really the best option. If even that. I wouldn't even consider him to be a good option, because you get him so late. But like I said, if Chris's leveling is really bad, which usually never is, usually because you get her so early in the game, she ends up having she ends up being more than ready. Max, now we enter Manarina. We must inform Henri about Guardiana. Because her levels tend to be actually pretty good, we never run into that problem. Whether I've never actually kicked Chris out of the party, unless she struggled in chapters 1 through 3, and she's like 7 levels behind them, or even 5 levels behind the party by the time we get to chapter 4, which usually is never, ever, ever an issue. When I was, so yeah. I even think the first time I ever played Shining Force, one of the things I actually did was I used Low, Gong, and Chris at endgame. But the point is that Low is taking place of damage output. So I learned to optimize my party better by not having 3 healers, and instead having 2 healers, and putting in a stronger physical damaging character or another caster of offensive edging. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/JackTarStudios for more live gaming action, as well as check out our Chairman of the Board show and our Hobo Head Crab Blind Play show as well. And when we come back, we will be exploring Manarina. There's a lot of cool things here that we need to do and can benefit from greatly. And I will point out that there's missable things here, as well as we've got another battle and a half or so to get, another couple of battles coming up, and some new characters to pick up. So you don't want to miss out on any of that. Thanks for stopping by, guys. We'll see you guys next time.